Well, now the Justice Department releasing a statement saying in part, quote, "The individuals who entered the building on 2 separate occasions were invited by congressional staffers to enter the building in each instance and were never asked to leave by the staffers who invited them. Though members of the group had been told at various points by the U.S. Capitol Police that they were supposed to have an escort. The office would be required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these invited guests were guilty of the crime of unlawful entry because their escort chose to leave them unattended. We do not believe it is probable that the office would be able to obtain and sustain convictions on these charges." Now, that is a very sensible analysis. The Department of Justice being careful, the same way the same Department of Justice, for example, decided not to prosecute Trump aides Dan Scavino and Mark Meadows for contempt of Congress, despite the January 6th Commission calling for it. But nuance isn't what Fox does best. And why give up an opportunity to claim that somehow this is directly comparable to January 6th, but not being treated the same?
Can you believe it? Charges dropped against the Colbert 9.
This highlights what I think a lot of people have started to realize, but I want to make this point. We have a bifurcated legal system here in this country, in which if you have the wrong political views or the wrong political connections, you have the book thrown at you. But if you have the right connections, everything gets dropped, and it's just a shrug as you walk away. And this is a serious problem in this country.
We asked Ned Ryan to join us to try to defend his case. He was not available. So rather than sweeping and indefensible political indictments of our federal prosecutors, let's look at the facts and the law. The allegation is that they needed their escort, which they no longer had. They were arrested by the same Capitol Police so many on Fox News now say are so biased. Well, good for the Capitol Police for enforcing the law. And to be clear, they spent a night in jail for this, all of them. But they were invited on the premise by congressional staffers so that they can conduct interviews with members of the January 6th committee. Also, as we mentioned, the crew was not in the Capitol Dome. They were across the street in the Longworth office building. And Fox wants you to believe that this is somehow the equivalent of January 6th, and that Colbert's team isn't being prosecuted because of their political bend. But let's even go there. Let's make that comparison to January 6th. Of the people on January 6th who were not beating up the Capitol Police, but instead were wandering the building aimlessly, they've had very lenient sentencing. The 177 people sentenced for the lowest misdemeanors on January 6th, 104 of them have gotten no jail time. Now, I've made it very clear. I agree with that. And I believe those who did just walk into the Capitol and quickly left should not have to serve time. These are people who accepted guilty pleas on charges like parading, disorderly conduct, disrupting Congress, remaining on a restricted ground. For almost all of them, the night the Colbert 9 spent in jail is more time served than those who illegally walked into the Capitol on January 6th. So please, let's talk about this with facts and law, but spare me the politicized false victimhood. Most of those who did receive time in the Capitol riots had either engaged in more egregious conduct or had a criminal past. Joining me now is former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi. Gene, good to see you. Appreciate it. What do you make of this?
Well, I represent one of the defendants who's been indicted in the January 6th investigation. And I'm limited in what I can say. However, I can say this. We have received 360 days of video testimony, or videos, countless documents, and the individuals who have been charged among the roughly 900 in the January 6th investigation, that is completely different than what happened on June 16th. And the thing about the Fox News analysis is, if you are being charged with unlawful entry, and one of your arguments is, I had permission, there's not a jury on the planet that would ever convict you or even be charged. So to compare January 6th defendants, and I represent one of them, I think he is unjustly charged, of course, because I'm a defense attorney, but what they're alleging my client did and others pales in comparison to the minuscule allegations that they have against the Colbert Nine.
Yeah, I mean, and you're making a critical point that as a legal matter, it really matters that they were invited there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, if you're on the premises, then you got the whole First Amendment. Even though Colbert's comedy, a little bit substance, some would say a lot of substance with mixed with humor. There's a First Amendment problem. You know, they're they have their film crew. They're there to kind of make parody of the Congress, but it's a part of the process of being in politics, and you're prosecuting individuals who are trying to fulfill First Amendment obligations. It's just totally different.
I have to say, one of the good things about having you on the show, as you point out, is that you represent one of the defendants.
I do.
So you understand what this is about. And, Fox has this guy go on and rails, angry, furious. The minute he comes on, he's shaking his head, furious about the fact that this outrage has occurred in the case of the Colbert Nine. And it's all phony. It's just, and I say that taking the politics out of it, meaning I focus on facts and the law. And when I first heard that they were arrested, I said, okay, let me wait and see what they got. How did this happen? What happened here? Maybe they are going to get charged here. But then as we learn more of the facts and the law matter here. How much of a factor do you think it is, both sort of morally and legally, in terms of the comparison that they weren't in the Capitol dome, but that they were in an office building across the street?
Oh, my goodness. Morally and legally, it is incredibly important. What they did on January 6th, Dan, is at the heart and soul of our peaceful transition of power. The individuals who entered the Capitol and tried to disrupt the House and the Senate chambers, allegedly, that is so much more important than the Colbert Nine, the nefarious Colbert Nine, who are in the Longworth House office building, which is about 150 yards away, and they're making parody of Congress. Totally. And here's the other thing. They're not disrupting any proceedings. Right. At worst, they're there under unlawful permission if that occurred. They weren't trying to disrupt anything. They just were there in an authorized manner, allegedly.
And I'm going to say it again. I can say on the one hand that I don't think that people who just walked into the Capitol and then left should have the book thrown at them. I'm glad to see that they're not getting jail time. Look at that.
My client.
All right, maybe one of your clients. If that's the facts around your client, I don't think they should get jail time. Period. If they walk in and they walk out. I am really concerned about the people who attacked police officers, about the ones who did property damage. And by the way, I am concerned about that across the board. When it happened in 2020, when it happened at the Capitol, I care about it in all these cases. Anyway.
I want you on my jury. Thank you.
Gene Rossi, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.